I've written about Enterprise Manager a few times. Back in the day, it was pretty much career suicide if you mentioned you use Enterprise Manager. And then with the advent of 10G, things all changed, and all of a sudden it became more cool to use Enterprise Manager. I think where Enterprise Manager comes into its own is the performance related pages. If you haven't got a diagnostics and tuning pack license, then obviously you can't use that. But if you have, then it's amazing. There's some fantastic stuff there. The ADDM compare period functionality was added into the database natively in Oracle 12c, but it's been in Cloud Control 12c since it was released, and you can use it against older versions of the database, which is pretty cool. So even though you can do it directly from the database in 12c, I still think you're probably going to want to do it from Cloud Control because it's much nicer. The emergency monitoring functionality is pretty cool. You can do much of it directly from the database, but why would you when it's so much easier and looks so much better if you do it through Cloud Control. Ash Analytics looks fantastic. You can query all the views yourself, assuming you've got the right licenses. So I'm not suggesting that it's something you couldn't do yourself, but why would you when it's been done for you and it's a great interface. The general performance page and the top activity is amazing, functionality is fantastic. So I mean, that section of Enterprise Manager is just awesome, and not using it if you have the licensing is just crippling yourself. You get to the bottom of problems so much quicker than having to do it yourself using SQL Plus. We schedule all our backups using the central scheduler, and I just think it's a much better solution. We get notifications if there's any problems, and it's one place to look at when you're trying to determine what your system's doing. Of course, Cloud Control has masses of functionality, but I would be interested to see the statistics on how many people use all of the individual pieces. I know for my own company, there's just big swathes of it we don't use. The fact that the product is free, provided you work within the licensing restrictions, means that I don't understand why people don't just give it a shot. You've just got to find somewhere to run it. Most people I speak to now have got some form of virtualization in their organisation, so just run up a virtual machine and use that to host Cloud Control. That's exactly what we do. Our Cloud Control is pivotal to our backup and recovery strategy, but we don't actually run it on physical hardware. We don't use anything like data guard or real application clusters to protect it. We just use the virtual infrastructure to do that. So that's our high availability for it, and that's good enough for us. What I would say is give it a go on a test environment, play around with it, get a feel for it, and then think about rolling it out. Provided you stay within the licensing restrictions, then it's a free product, so why wouldn't you try? In the past I've run in several configurations, including having the database protected on a separate layer. And what I found was the more complicated you made the Cloud Control environment, the harder it was to actually do anything with it. I got to a point where I was quite scared of doing upgrades of it because I never knew what I would be left with at the end of the process. So a little while back, what we did was essentially reinstall everything and go for a simple installation. So management server and database on the same virtual machine, and use the virtual infrastructure to give us our high availability. Didn't bother with multiple management servers anymore. Didn't bother with trying to protect our database with data guard or real application clusters. And since we made that move, the handling has been so much simpler. We're just about to start our second upgrade of that since making that move. The last upgrade was pretty much just point and click. We didn't really do anything on top of just hitting the next button on the installer. So my advice, especially when you're beginning, is stick with to have multiple management servers, and that's all good. If you can cope with that, that's great. But I do feel like for many people, the simple installation on a single virtual machine is probably the ideal solution, and it's certainly the easiest to manage. If your last experience of Enterprise Manager was Grid Control 10G or Grid Control 11G, I think you'll be really pleasantly surprised about Cloud Control 12C. The interface is so much better. It's not perfect. There are still some navigation issues that really bug me, but in comparison to what came before, it's like a dream. The range of functionality it's got is pretty incredible, but that's also its downfall. It can seem overly complicated at times, especially if you only use a subset of the functionality, which I guess most people do. I think it's important you don't get reliant on the tool. I think it's important you understand how the tool is actually doing this stuff behind the scenes. But in a day-to-day work situation, when someone says, what's going on in the database, the fact you can click a couple of times and have exceptional reporting is fantastic. Typically, the detail section of the activity page will tell you what the statements are that are causing it. It's just really that quick. So I think if you've got the diagnostics and tuning pack and you're not using Cloud Control, you're being a bit silly. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the links in the description box and subscribe to the channel and like the video if you liked it.